Welcome to episode 15 of the Credit Card BS podcast. My name is Sean. I'm the UC Berkeley graduate that created and taught the university-sponsored course on credit card rewards. I'm here with my co-host, Sherwin.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sherwin. I'm a Stanford student who's really into credit cards, points, miles, and travel. I first got into this hobby a little more than a year ago, and since then, I've gone on some really cool trips. And today, I'm here to share with you some information I've learned along the way. Today's episode is top 10 credit card pet peeves. So these are 10 things that really annoy Sean and myself, mistakes that we see happen too often in this game. So without further ado, Sean, you want to start with the first one?
Yes, so pet peeve number one is waiting to get your first card. I see this so often, and this is probably the one that might make me the most mad. So picture this, right? You have a student in college, they want to start building their credit score, they want to start, improving their financial profile. And so one of two things usually happens. Either one, you'll have someone that is spending so much time researching their first card. They'll maybe spend a month, 2, 3, 6 researching their first card and not realizing that it really doesn't matter what card you get for the first one. What matters is that you're building individual credit history because that is what's going to allow you to get better cards down the line. If you are just spending all this time researching, trying to get the optimal first card, it's a waste of your time. The other thing I see is people go, oh, well, I can worry about that later. I'm just a student now. I don't really need to worry about building my credit score now. I can do it as an adult. And that is exactly incorrect. That is literally the opposite of what you should be doing. Because right now you don't need that credit profile. That's why you should be building it now so you can use it in the future. Even if you don't travel now, even if you don't plan to travel for a while, having a strong credit profile is critical. And one of the biggest factors of your whole credit profile is the oldest account you have on file. You could be making $500,000, but if your oldest credit card is 6 months old, you'll get denied for basically any credit card. But you could be making $30,000 a year, and if your oldest account is 6, 7, 8 years, you'll basically be able to get any credit card in the world. So this one makes me so mad because people are just wasting time throwing it down the toilet when they could start the clock as early as possible. My biggest mistake in the entire credit card game was getting my first card at 19 years old instead of 18 years old. What are your thoughts, Sherwin?
I completely agree. I also regret getting my first card at 19 instead of 18 because I basically, lost out on a whole year of sign-up bonuses. If I would encourage everyone to go back to episode 6 of our podcast and listen to, it was an episode about Chase 524 rule, but really we kind of laid out an important optimal strategy. And the idea is that you need to get into Chase first because they have restrictions and application rules that make it harder to get in if you have opened a lot of cards already. But in order to get that first Chase card, you need to have that first card be from another issuer, be open for a year. And so the longer you wait, the longer it's going to take for you to even initiate and execute that optimal strategy, in my opinion. And honestly, that first card is likely not going to matter. It just needs to be a starter card that you can get approved for. In the long term, that's not going to be the card that's going to get you the most rewards. It's just something to get your foot in the door.
Yeah, exactly. I think those are all excellent points. So let's move on to pet peeve number 2 then. So the second one is
take this one.
fear of... Oh yeah, you take this one.
Okay, yeah, so this is one of my biggest pet peeves, fear of complexity. When I go to a cocktail party and I tell people that I have 10 credit cards, people are confused. They wonder, oh, how do you remember how to pay all of them? Isn't that so complicated? Are you financially unstable? None of those things are true. A lot of people think that they should limit themselves to 1 to 3 cards because that's simpler. They don't need that much chaos in their lives. While that might sound reasonable, on the surface, I think you're just flushing thousands of dollars down the toilet. The really lucrative sign-up bonuses in the US, we're looking at anywhere from $600 to more than $1,000 of value each. And I think the so-called hassle of having to open and maintain a bunch of these cards is far outweighed by the significant value and rewards you get from different cards. Also, I feel like different cards serve different purposes. Some are really good at earning points, some have really good travel benefits and protections. Uh, I think it's ludicrous to say only one or two cards can fit most of your needs and your travel needs. I would also add that the notion that you have to keep track of all of these cards and that's really burdensome is also over exaggerated. A lot of my cards just stay in the sock drawer, aren't really used. For example, like some of my hotel cards, they don't earn the most amount of points on spending, so I don't really use them, but they offer like a really valuable free night certificate each year. So I hang on to them and keep those accounts open. Uh, Also note that, in the long term, the more credit card accounts you have, generally the higher your credit score. Even though an application might lower your credit score temporarily, in the long term, it's actually beneficial to have a whole bunch of accounts. Sean, what do you think?
Yeah, I think those are all excellent points. And another point I wanted to bring up about the complexity issue is that if you're getting cards from the same issuer, it doesn't even require another login. So if you get an additional Chase card and you were already a Chase customer, or an Amex card and you were already an Amex customer, they appear in the same website and the same app. It requires basically zero extra effort to manage. So it's not like, okay, you have to have like, 6 different logins and remember the passwords and all that. If they're from the same issuer, it's no extra work. You set up autopay on all of them. You don't have to, I wouldn't recommend relying on autopay, but it's a nice safety net. You don't really have to remember the due dates and all of them. Just check the app every few days, pay off all your cards, and that's it. It's really not that much complexity. And I talked about this in a previous episode, but if you are someone that doesn't want to put a lot of time and effort and research into this, that's fine. I understand that, your time is valuable. Find someone that's really into this game, okay? It could literally be your friend, a friend of a friend, whatever. Tell them, look, you want to get some cards, you want to get some benefits, but you don't want to do any research. They will give you a very specific breakdown of what cards to get. And why would they do this? Why would they want to help you? Because you're going to tell them, I'll use your referral links for whatever cards I get. And that person's eyes will light up and they will help you plan whatever strategy you want to do. So you don't have to do research. Because they'll get paid pretty significantly whenever you sign up for their card. So it's, I would recommend doing that if you really don't want to do research. It's not nearly as much work as people, make it seem.
Yeah, I definitely agree. There's always people out there to help you, so don't be afraid to ask. Now, another related point about complexity, I wanted to ask you, Sean, what your opinion on this. I think it's somewhat a reasonable argument. Some people think that award travel is simply too complicated. Not only is there a significant learning curve to mastering the different loyalty programs, but also to find availability on some of these best redemptions, it can be difficult, take a lot of work, or require a lot of flexibility on travel dates. What do you say to this argument?
That is a good argument in some aspects, but there's a few key points that people who make that are missing. One, not all loyalty programs are complicated, okay? For example, Southwest. Southwest is an extraordinarily easy points program. If there's a cash ticket available on the flight, congrats, there's a points ticket available on the flight. Is it a good deal on points? It's always the same deal. It's a revenue-based program. So it doesn't really matter how much the cash price is. The points price scales pretty much effectively with that. Now, I don't like that type of a program myself, but it's extraordinarily simple. So that is a program that you'll be able to get consistent value out of no matter what. Another very easy program is World of Hyatt. World of Hyatt, yes, it's an award chart-based program, so like some redemptions are good, some redemptions are bad, but it's very easy. It's very easy to find availability. It's not like, okay, I want to fly on this rare product. So obviously, okay, if I want to fly on ANA, I need to search on United and book with Virgin Atlantic miles, which I only transfer during a 30% bonus. Like that's very complicated to people, right? But World of Hyatt's easy. You transfer your Chase points, you book the hotel. Is it a good value? It's pretty easy to do the math on that. So I think that's, for some programs, yes, it's extraordinarily complicated. For other programs, it's extraordinarily simple. So if you don't want to deal with the, the complexities of top tier first class redemptions, just stick to the hotel side, stick to the revenue based programs. You can still get good value. On some of these programs, you get still significant value. Additionally, there are services that will help you with this. There are paid services, especially for award flights, that you can, give them like $200 per passenger, and they'll help you, find availability and book these complicated redemptions. Now, maybe you don't want to burn the cash, but it still is a way to get significant value and fly these nice products for a much lower cost.
Okay, yeah, I think that pretty much sums up this pet peeve. So why don't we move to number 3? Sean, you want to take this one?
Yes. So this is one I hold near and dear to my heart. So this is something that makes me so unbelievably mad when people do this, is avoiding annual fee cards. Everyone talks about how they hate credit card annual fees. Credit card annual fees are evil. Okay, well, I hate to break it to you. The annual fees I pay are a bit different than the annual fees on your TJ Maxx credit card for $95 that you get no rewards on, okay? Annual fee credit cards are basically the most powerful tool in the world when it comes to traveling for cheaper. Buying these annual fee cards or paying these fees can afford you luxuries and, redemptions that otherwise just would not be possible, okay? As an example, we've talked about like the Hilton Aspire card. It's a $450 annual fee, quintessential card that people would go, "Oh my god, that's insane. I'm never going to pay that. That's ridiculous." Yet these same people that wouldn't pay that fee go to Maui, stay at the Waldorf, and drop 6K on a vacation every year. That makes me so mad because the Hilton Aspire for $450, first of all, you get a night at the Waldorf, okay? Which would normally cost more than double the $450 already. Off the bat, you've already made your money. But additionally, you get top tier Hilton Diamond status. You get $250, which if you're smart, you can use toward the airfare going to Maui, and $250 of resort credit, which you can use at the Waldorf Maui. So for $450, you get $250 to your airfare, $250 to spend at the hotel, and a free night at the hotel. If you even take one vacation a year at a Hilton resort, the card pays for itself. And yet people will just be so scared because, oh my God, it's an annual fee. And so it's something you have to be very careful of. You need to take the emotion out of it. People get so emotional with like thinking it's this recurring fee they can never get out of. It's a timeshare. It's evil. But no, you can just downgrade the card. If you don't want to pay it anymore, downgrade the card, cancel the card, the world doesn't end. And, you can even get retention offers sometimes where they'll pay you to keep the card open. It's a huge mistake. If you're someone that's like anti-annual fee, you really need to evaluate if it's worth it to be in this game because it's really tough to get significant value out of your rewards and out of, your travel redemptions without annual fee cards. It's just tough. It's not something that like people will say. I hear a lot of people like, "Oh yeah, you can get tons of value out of no annual fee cards all the time." Not really. There's a couple chasing cards. That's good value. Okay, I'm not going to lie. That's legit. A lot of times though, you need the annual fee cards. So what are your thoughts? I know I probably have a bit of a controversial opinion here.
I mean, I pretty much agree. Just do the math. Like if the benefits or the value you get out of the card are more than the annual fee, and mathematically, like we need to take emotion out of it. The mathematically, it does make sense to get it. I do want to emphasize a point you said earlier about thinking that this is going to be a long-term commitment. It's really not, right? I think keep in mind that you can always downgrade or cancel an annual fee card after the second year. Or after the third year, after fourth, like whenever you feel like it no longer suits your needs. Very easy example I always use is, the Chase Sapphire Preferred. Let's say there's the elevated 80,000 point sign-up bonus, right? Like, oh my goodness, there's a $95 annual fee, but if you can hit the minimum spend, you're going to get those 80,000 points, which at a worst case scenario, you can cash out for $800. And then factor in the opportunity to use transfer partners, and that $800 can be like $1,600 or even more dollars worth of travel. But even if we don't do any of that, even if we just cash it out and then downgrade the card in the second year, you've made, $705, right? So, oftentimes the no annual fee card sign up bonuses will only be worth maybe $200 or $300. But the annual fees sign up bonuses will be worth $600 to $800 or more dollars, right? And then if you can downgrade the second year, it's almost like the annual fee is like such a tiny portion of that equation in my mind. Another way to think about this is to kind of change the mentality of like, oh, it's a fee I have to pay or whatever, right? Like, for example, the hotel keeper cards, I think a really great example. Like when I'm paying the $95 annual fee on the World of Hyatt card, I'm not thinking like, oh, this is another expense, but rather I'm buying like a discounted free night certificate. Because remember, each year you renew the card, you get like the category 1 through 4 certificate, which can be worth easily $200 to $300. So I'm kind of like buying prepay a $200 to $300 night for only $95. Same thing that goes for like the IHG card, or and even like the huge annual fee cards like the platinum card, $695 annual fee. If you can use the credits, they can not only offset the annual fee but also subsidize in some ways like the other perks of the card that are less tangible, like a lounge membership access. Maybe you wouldn't pay $695 for that, but maybe it might make sense to justify that it's like, oh, these different credits pay for the card, and then on top of that, getting these other perks. What do you think, Sean?
Yeah, 100%. I think also people need to shift it in the sense that let's say you have card A and card B. Card A is no annual fee, card B has an annual fee, but the sign up bonus on card B is massive versus, you have a tiny sign up bonus on card A. If you're not applying, you need to like really think like if you apply for card A just because you're emotionally scared of the annual fee, but yet even like the sign up bonus, even after you deduct the annual fee on card B is like worth way more, you're actively losing money. Like you can't just view it as like this emotional, oh, I didn't get tied in this annual fee. You're losing money. You chose an option that paid you less money just because you're so scared of this fee, which you can cancel literally the year after getting the card. There's nothing to be afraid of with these things. Like the only time I can really see an argument that it's like bad, okay, maybe if you're getting something like the platinum card, I can understand that a bit because there's no downgrade path to a no annual fee card. Sure. But if it's something like the Aspire, the Sapphire, any of those have no annual fee downgrade paths. So there's no real reason to like be afraid of that fee. If it makes sense year one, then it makes sense.
Yeah, I know plenty of people get that annual fee credit card the first year, clearly with the intention of downgrading it in the second year. Like, people often get the card just for the bonus, and that as long as you keep it open for 1 year, like that's a legitimate thing to do. So again, don't be afraid of that. All right, let's move on to the next pet peeve. So I guess I'll start with this one. So it's what I call not taking opportunity costs seriously. Okay, what did I mean by that? So like you have to think like when I'm applying for a particular card, I am sort of giving up the opportunity to apply for a different card that might give me some amount of value, right? And related to this, I would say a sub pet peeve I'd have is like people not taking, for example, the Chase 524 rule seriously. That's a rule that Chase has that if in the last 24 months you apply and have opened for more than or for 5 or more personal credit cards, regardless of what issuer they're from, they're going to deny you a card, right? So let's say you've already opened 4 credit cards in the last 2 years. And then, so as long as you apply for an additional credit card, that's going to put you at 524. You're locked out for Chase 2 years or until that first account drops off. And you have the opportunity to choose between a Chase card that has a good sign up bonus, maybe $600 to $800 worth of value, or as many people end up unfortunately choosing the Apple card. Okay. Side note, I really hate the Apple card. It's shiny, it's titanium, it looks cool, but like the benefits don't make sense. Like you get 2% back cash back when you use Apple Pay, which makes 0 sense to me because if it's shiny and titanium, you want to show off and use that physical card. But now you have to use Apple Pay and not bring it out so you can get the extra cash back. And 2, there's so many other credit cards, Citi Double Cash, Wells Fargo Active Cash, they give you 2% back on every purchase, regardless of whether you use mobile wallet or not. And 3rd, like this card has usually a garbage sign-up bonus, like $75 Nike gift card or whatever, right? Like at the minimum, you should be getting sign-up bonuses of at least $200 for no annual fee cards or even more with annual fee cards, right? So side note aside, Apple card is garbage, right? So we're faced with these 2 options. What do you choose, right? And even if you are dead set on getting the Apple card, you could always get that Chase card first, bring yourself to 524, and then apply for the Apple card, which you'll probably get approved for because they don't have that restriction, right? So you could get both. But if you pick the Apple card first, then you lock yourself out of Chase. So, the very important lesson here is that order matters, right? The order in which you get the cards, when you get them, the velocity, that kind of stuff matters. So you need to be thinking long-term. It's not just what card would help me right now, but what card fits into my strategy, what cards I plan on opening, the types of rules that might apply to them. Sean, what do you think?
I think those are excellent points. And I think it's also really critical that like this pet peeve ties into the other ones we've mentioned that, if you're not thinking about the opportunity cost, you're making decisions like with emotion. Just like if you're waiting to get your first card, you're waiting too long. That's an opportunity cost that you gave up. That was 6 months of other cards you could have got or 6 months of other history. So when you're not thinking about it, like with Chase 524, right, you're losing Chase cards that you could have potentially gotten and you could have gotten these other cards later. But because you had this like emotional decision to, I need to get the Apple card now, or I need to get this other garbage credit card now because it looks cool, you're losing opportunity. You're actively losing money. You need to view it as I'm not like missing out on a gain. I am losing. So all excellent points there. opportunity cost is a really, really important part of this game, and you really need to like shift your mentality to an opportunity cost mindset.
Yeah, and I think that brings me to my next pet peeve, which is when people don't really pay attention to the offer they're signing up for, because this is also an opportunity cost problem. I think a lot of things tie back to that, right? Oftentimes, credit cards will have elevated sign-up bonuses where the sign-up bonus will be higher for a short period of time as part of a promotion or as part of a targeted offer. Um, at the same time, there are restrictions on how often you can get these bonuses. American Express famously has a once in a lifetime rule, meaning once you get that card, uh, you can no longer get the sign up bonus for that card ever again in your lifetime. Now there are data points online of that dropping off after X number of years, but for our purposes, we're going to treat it face value, which is a lifetime rule, right? So, if you see the American Express Platinum card offer and it looks good, but the sign up bonus is like 80,000 points, you sign up for that. Unfortunately, you have again flushed thousands of dollars of value down the toilet, because we've seen higher offers of 100,000, 125,000, sometimes even 150,000 points, depending on the time, depending on what link you use, often even depending on like what browser you're on or what VPN you're on. American Express does that. So always like spend some time, play around, see if you can get a better offer. And if you can't, wait until a higher offer comes, instead of locking yourself into a lower offer. Some issuers will like match you to a higher offer if it comes out like right after you've signed up for a lower one, but some won't. Even those that do aren't super consistent with that. So, always wait, do some research online on like what the higher offers have been to, compare if the current offer is competitive, or else again, you're throwing money down the toilet. And like when I make a credit card plan, like what cards I'm going to sign up in the future, those are just tentative and not set in stone, because oftentimes, a higher offer will come out and I have to adjust my plan accordingly. So, you got to be flexible with that, in my opinion. Sean, what do you think?
Yeah, I think those are all very, very good points. And another thing I want to add, and this is something, especially as people that are like trying to, be in the credit card content creation space, that hurts me near and dear, is when people just blindly apply for cards without using an affiliate link. So if you're going to get a card that it has the same offer across the board. So let's say something like, usually the Chase Sapphire Preferred, the offer is, pretty constant, whether it's online via referral link. Sometimes they have special offers in branch, but, usually it's somewhat stable, and people just apply for it and they don't ask for a referral link. Either it doesn't have to be from me, could be their friends, could be their family, could be literally anyone. You could go find some random YouTuber and use their link. If you're not using a referral link to apply for a card when the offer is the same, you're literally just saying to someone, screw you, I don't want to give you several $100s for no work at all. Like, it is free money. It's not to you, but like you could just give someone free money by using their referral link. If the offer's the same, there's no harm at all in using it. And again, I'm not saying like, oh, it has to be like, even people that I know, like that I recommend cards for, I don't say like, oh, you have to use my link, but just use someone's link. It could be your, your best friends. It could be like, your roommate's friend's brother or whatever. Like, I don't care. Just use someone's link, because it is free money sitting on the table. It benefits someone for absolutely no work at all. The exception to that, of course, is like Amex is weird, because sometimes like the referral links won't have the same offers you'll find on like a card match tool or via some special link. So I understand in those cases, always go with the best offer. But if the offer is the same, use a referral link. Also, a very good time to plug, if you are looking for any credit cards and you would like to help to support this podcast, please consider using the affiliate links at the link in the description. It really, really, really does help us out. If not our links, just use someone's links, help someone else out no matter what.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think, referral bonuses can be a powerful tool, powerful strategy, especially in like a two-player mode game. Person A refers person B, and person B refers back person A. There's no restriction usually on doing so. As long, don't refer yourself, you're not allowed to do that. But A referring B, B referring A is a perfectly fine strategy, and you can get a lot more points out of it. And again, you don't have to use our links. If you have someone please use their links instead. But if you don't, it'd be great to help us out. Now let's move on to that next pet peeve we have: ignoring business cards. So Sean, Do we have to have a business to get a credit card? That's like a big question I always ask when I explain business credit cards to people.
Definitely, yeah. Everyone always asks when I recommend these cards, like, "Oh, I don't have a business. Do I need like a full LLC and stuff?" Everyone has a business, is my response. Okay, assuming just as a quick pause, assuming like your immigration status is solid and everything. Okay, if you're on like a student visa, I can't comment on that. But like if you're a permanent resident or like a citizen or whatever, everyone has a business to some degree. I don't care if you tutored someone 2 years ago but if you got paid for it, that's a business. You helped your friend move and they gave you like some money, that's a business. Anything is a business. Anything that you do for any money, no matter how small, as long as it's not technically like as an employee, that's a business. Okay. If you're an Uber driver, business. Anything that you receive money for other than employment is a business. So everyone has a business to some degree. Okay. I promise you, if you think hard enough and you look hard enough, you have a business. You do not need any articles of formation. You do not need any legal documentation. It is called a sole proprietorship. A sole proprietorship is effectively you declaring to the bank, hey, I do something on the side that's not being an employee that makes me some money, or at least I'm trying to do something that makes me some money. It doesn't even have to be profitable yet. You could have basically no revenue at all and just say, I'm trying to make money and that's my business. And as long as it's, somewhat legitimate sounding, okay, as long as it's not super, super sketchy sounding, they'll probably approve you. They don't really care about your business. They don't really care about what you do in your business that much. They don't really care about your revenue. What they do care about is your personal income and personal credit score history. So if your history is solid enough to get a personal card, it very, very is likely to get approved for a business credit card as well. So there's no need to worry about this. There's no, oh my God, I have to, go to the IRS and get 10 pages of documentation to send into Chase. It's a sole proprietorship. Everyone has a business. You're just applying with your SSN. All you're saying is, I am trying to make money somehow. And then you kind of maybe have to explain what that is. Everyone has a business to some degree. Assuming you are a, permanent resident or a citizen of the United States, you have a business to some degree and are qualified for business cards.
Yeah, those are very good tips. Remember, you don't need an EIN number that you have to register. You can oftentimes use your social security number as a sole proprietorship. That's what I've generally done. Business cards that I've opened. And business cards can be really powerful for multiple reasons. For one, their sign-up bonuses are often very large and much more lucrative than the personal cards. Two, the benefits can often be incomparable to the personal cards. For example, we talked about the Wyndham business cards over and over again on our podcast. You can check out this previous episodes. The status you get and the opportunities you can get in Las Vegas and other casino status matches are significant, and you can't get that otherwise. And third, in addition to the high sign-up bonuses and the benefits, they often don't report to your personal credit report. And what this means is that, for example, for Chase, it won't count toward your 524 status. Sean, so how does that like implicate people's credit card strategy?
Yeah. So for like example, on the Chase Inc. business cards, which are some of the best business cards in the world, they do not count toward 524, but they are affected by 524. So if you're over 524, you can't get an Inc. business card. If you're under 524, let's say you're 424, you go get 5 Inc. business cards, guess what? You're still 424. So it doesn't actually do anything toward that. And basically every business card is like this. So Amex is like this, Chase is like this. Those are the main ones. Barclays is like this. The only ones I've heard that like aren't, super, sometimes they will report, I think it's Discover and Capital One can report to personal, but basically every other issuer doesn't. And this can be huge because this can allow you to nearly double the amount of cards you can get before, going over 524. Because let's say you're like at, let's say you are at 524, but you don't want to like increase that any further because you're about to go under. Maybe I'll get an Amex business card or something. And so that doesn't affect my report. Or I'll get the Wyndham business card. That doesn't affect my report, at least on the, account reporting side. You still will receive an inquiry depending on the issuer and everything. So that will show up. But again, that doesn't affect 524. 524 is based on the new accounts. Inquiries matter much, much less than new accounts on your report. So in terms of like implicating your credit card strategy, the thing you need to realize is it makes the opportunity cost for 524 even bigger. Because if you're at 424, you can just get Inc. business cards as much as you want within reason, and that won't put you above 524. But if you're at 524, you're just straight out of luck. So that like last slot is so important because you can just farm business cards from any issuer at 424 and still have the ability to get Chase. But once you're above, you're stuck.
Yeah, I mean, I've been at 424 for like almost a year, if not more now, and like a big reason why is I'm still being able to open business cards, but be able to get Chase cards as well. Whereas as soon as I get one personal card, then I'm kind of locked out. So there's always a strategy component to it. Uh, cool. So let's go on to the next pet peeve number 7. Now, we kind of already talked about this on episode 11 on cashback, so we're not going to go into too much detail because you can always go back. But Sean, why don't you summarize this really quickly?
Yeah, so this is when people fixate on the multipliers of cards rather than sign-up bonuses. And this is especially problematic when people are focused on cashback, but it's still a problem in the points game too. People are like, oh, I want the Chase Trifecta, I need the Freedom Flex, Freedom Unlimited, Sapphire Preferred, and then I'm just going to use those for my daily spending and rack up a bunch of points. Newsflash, you're not going to rack up a bunch of points. Unless you are a super mega baller or running an ad agency or something and spending hundreds of thousands of dollars a month, you're not going to rack up a bunch of points. It's just not going to happen. It will take you 10 seconds to do the math, add up your spending, put in the multipliers. It's not going to be that much. For 99.9% of people, focusing on the sign-up bonuses is so much more lucrative and so much better. So don't waste your time on a, L loser mindset of just these small multipliers versus, getting these massive, huge sign-up bonuses, which can completely change, the places that you can go and the travel you can redeem for.
Yeah, I mean, one very easy example I always use is, when people say, should you get the Chase Freedom Unlimited, which gives you 1.5% back, or the City Double Cash, which gives you 2% back, right? Obviously, we should go for the 2% back, right? But, the Freedom Unlimited has the $200 sign-up bonus, whereas the Double Cash is no sign-up bonus. In fact, to make up for that 0.5% difference, you would have to spend $40,000 on your City Double Cash to outweigh that $200, right? So even this very small numbers example shows you that the amount of spend you need for the multipliers to matter as much as sign-up bonuses is astronomical and probably not relevant for most of us. Cool. So now let's go on to the next pet peeve number 8. So Sean, why don't you talk about this one?
Yeah, this is one. This gets me very mad. As you might be able to tell in this episode, some of these have gotten me riled up. This one gets me really mad. So this is when people redeem for poor value under the mindset of, oh, it's free. I'm going to waste 80,000 points on this economy flight because it's free instead of paying $200. No, it is not. No part of this game is free. Points are an asset you have acquired, and you are spending that asset for something. If you are spending more of that asset, you are paying more. You're always paying. It is never free. So if you are redeeming for poor value, you are just paying more and getting less. It isn't ever free. You need to understand that. So this is why it's important to kind of, optimize your cents per point. So people say on these, these Reddit threads, guys, we don't care about cent per point. Just ignore that metric. Redeem for what you want to redeem for. To a degree, sure, but not really. The reason cent per point exists as a metric is because it's an objective metric for how much cash value you're getting out of your points. You are paying an asset and you're trying to receive, figure out the return on that investment. So if you're redeeming for poor cents per point, you are just throwing money away, okay? And this is especially apparent when people just do there are redemptions that are just literally objectively bad. So if, for example, if you are transferring Chase points to IHG, that is an objectively bad redemption. There is literally zero reason you can justify doing that because you can buy IHG points for less money than it would take you to transfer it to over from your Chase points, because the Chase point cashes out at 1 cent per point. You can buy IHG points at half a cent per point, so you could literally buy double the IHG points by not transferring to IHG. So there are objectively bad redemptions that people do, and that gets me extra mad because you can't even make an argument for it. There's some redemptions that are awful, but maybe you can make an argument for. But there are some redemptions that are so objectively bad that mathematically there is zero argument. So this one especially gets me mad because I see it so often. And when I try to explain to people, hey, you should search for a better redemption, they're like, no, I'm just going to redeem for the travel I'm doing anyways. It's free anyways. And it gets me so mad because it's not free. It's like if I have a bunch of, Japanese yen and I go pay for things and I'm like, oh, it's free. It's not US dollars. That's not how it works. It's a different currency. So Yeah, it's never free. You're always paying. You're just paying in a different currency. So Sherwin, what are your thoughts?
I think I would mostly agree with that. Now, I do want to counter a little bit. Some people say that cents per point value can be misleading because oftentimes the aspirational things you're redeeming for are either overpriced or something you wouldn't pay money for anyway. So it's kind of unfair to value them at face value. How do you respond to that argument?
That's a very good question. So my response is we have to define the difference between value and savings. So if I'm redeeming for a $20,000 first class flight that, and I'm getting 10 cents per point, you would say I'm getting 10 cents per point in value because I would not pay for that first class ticket. So I'm not saving anything there. So if I'm redeeming though, let's say for an economy flight and I'm getting like 2 cents per point, but I was going to book that anyways, I'm getting 2 cents per point in savings. So there's a very critical difference there. Savings is, what you would be willing to pay anyways, or what you were going to pay anyways that you were able to save by using points. So usually on those redemptions will be much lower value usually because most people are not willing to pay $20,000 for a first class flight. The value though is what I'm talking about, these high, value. Those are aspirational redemptions and the value side. So I'm not fooling myself like, oh, I saved $20,000. I didn't. I gained something that has a retail market value of $20,000 that I got to experience using my points. So I think that's a very important difference to define. And so you should think to yourself when you're redeeming, are you getting savings or value? Now, of course, savings is obviously better than value because you're literally saving money. But at the same token, remember, you are still paying a currency. So if you're getting very mediocre savings and you're paying a bunch of currency from it, you're not really saving anything. You're just spent a bunch of a different currency. But if you are able to get, for example, like a 2 cents per point savings may be better than a 10 cents per point value because you're actually saving those 2 cents per point. And that's a legitimate redemption at 2 cents per point. So what are your thoughts on like the idea of like savings versus value and like, how can people kind of navigate that and decide where to draw the line between the two?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a hard question. I think again, it all comes back to opportunity cost. To me, I'm not going to use my points if I'm not getting like high value. If it's like a type of travel that like I can otherwise pay with cash and can like reasonably afford, right? For example, if I need to take just like $100 flight that's just economy, nothing extraordinary, and I can redeem my chase points using the portal at 1.25 cents per point for that flight. To me, I'm not going to do it like, to me it's not like free if I make that redemption. I'm just kind of wasting my points on something that I can comfortably pay cash for and then save those points for like a much higher value redemption at World of Hyatt or something like that, right? So to me it's about opportunity costs. I feel like with money and cash, we can always find opportunities to increase our income, to make money and to be able to pay and afford things. But for some of these points and miles that are harder to come by or that are really expensive to purchase, I think there's even higher level of scarcity that we need to be thinking about seriously. And yeah, like I agree. There are just some redemptions you want to shy away from, like transferring to bad partners. I think, Hilton is another example. Like a lot of like the mid-tier properties redeem at like really high points value, like a lot of like mediocre Hampton Inns or just like Hilton Garden Inns can be like 50 or 60,000 points a night. But the really like high tier aspirational properties are 95,000 points per night. Now, yeah, like the aspirational one is more expensive, but the amount of value you get is double, if not triple, if not even more, right? So it's all about proportions rather than just like the absolute value I happen to be incidentally saving in a particular circumstance. Okay, so I think that covers this pretty well. So let's go on to the next pet peeve I have, that when people earn 1x points back on their spend. Now, there are a few exceptions where this is acceptable. If you're working toward a sign up bonus, you need to use that card, fine. If that card gives you some kind of way toward a hotel or airline status, like American Airlines, World of Hyatt card spend, or you need to spend toward to get a free night certificate, fine, I get that. other than those circumstances, there is no reason you should be earning 1% or 1x back on anything. The bare minimum you should be earning is 2% cash back. We're talking Citi Double Cash, Wells Fargo Active Cash. These are no annual fee cards, no frills, 2% cash back. It's the bare minimum. Now, when we're talking about points, this is where I think a lot of people fall into the trap, right? And we kind of talked about this in our previous episode called Airline Card Suck. Please go check that out. But the idea is this. I fly Delta or I fly United or I like this hotel chain. I'm going to spend on their card to get the points, right? So like I'm going to spend on my Delta card. I'm going to get 1x points for all my purchases. I'm going to get 1x United points on all my purchases on my United cards. And that's just the wrong way to do it. Many transferable currency cards earn 1.5x or if not 2x points that can be transferred to these very same partners, right? So for example, United, if I'm spending on my Chase Freedom Unlimited, I'm going to get 1.5x back. And then if I have a Sapphire or Ink Preferred card, I can transfer those points 1-to-1 ratio to United. So I'm earning 1.5x United on all my purchases instead of 1x, right? Similar arguments can be made for other even more valuable transfer partners like Amex's ANA or Aeroplan that many things have, or like the Turkish Airlines deal we've talked a lot about. You can get that from like a 2x multiplier on the Venture X or on the Citi Double Cash that can be combined with Citi Premier to make that transfer to Turkish Airlines. If all this sounds really complicated, it really isn't. The idea is that we use these transferable currency cards not only to leverage more optionality, but also to leverage better points earning. Sean, what do you think?
100%. Yeah, I think when people are, like as much as I said before, don't get caught up in the multipliers. There's still, some degree of you should have a base floor value multiplier, especially when we're talking about something from like 1 to 2x, because 1 to 2x is literally you're doubling the amount of rewards you're able to earn, and it is always really nice to have a floor. And especially, yeah, as you said, with like these transferable cards, if you're earning a specific airline's miles, like it doesn't make sense a lot of the time because you're stuck into that airline, and if they devalue the program, you're screwed. But with most of the airlines, you can just have a transferable currency that goes to them. Basically, the only airline that doesn't have that is Alaska in the United States. Even American has Bilt as a transfer partner now. So if you're going to earn points, I'd rather earn Bilt points over American Airlines miles, ignoring the status aspect, of course. But basically, any of these airlines now have transfer partners. And basically, any of these major programs, almost all of them have transfer partners. So if I'm going to earn, 2x on one of these things, I'd rather earn it on a transferable currency that is much, much safer from devaluation than a static, like single program currency.
Yeah, I completely agree. Check out the transferable currency cards. Like I really like the Chase Inks, for example. The Amex system is really good. You're going to get much better value from them than from the individual airline cards. Or, I love hotel cards for their finance certificates, but they don't really earn the most points on spend. So again, always do the math. We're looking at opportunity costs. I think a way I think about it is, when I'm spending on an airline card and I'm earning 1x points, that's not free 1x points. I kind of paid 2 cents for that 1x point because I gave up the opportunity cost of, at a very base minimum, using 2% cash back and getting 2 cents per dollar on that spend. So in effect, I paid 2 cents for that 1x mile. Is that a bad deal? Yes. Right. So when you think about it in that way, again, we're losing money on poor credit card decisions. Okay, let's move on to our last and final credit card pet peeve. And this is about credit limit increases. Sean, why don't you finish us up with this one?
Yeah, so this one has become less of an issue in recent time, but this is still something I see a lot, and it's just so needless. And it's something I'd even argue, even if there wasn't the cost of this, I'd still argue against it. So it's when people apply for credit line increases at issuers that do hard inquiries. So remember, a hard inquiry is like whenever you apply for a new line of credit, a new credit card, you receive a hard inquiry. It's a running tally of how many times you've applied for credit so that other banks can see. And these aren't the worst thing in the world, but they definitely aren't the best thing in the world. You don't want to have a bunch of inquiries in your account. It just shows that you're seeking credit and it makes you look way riskier. And so there's a lot of banks that will do credit line increases now without a hard pull. And that's fine. That's great. Amex does that. I believe Chase now mostly does that. And so you're able to get, Citi does it too.
Yeah.
So that's awesome, right? If you can get it without a hard pull, that's great. It doesn't really affect your credit score at all. You're able to get a higher line of credit, and that's all good. But people will still go like, oh, I need to get a higher credit line. Let me apply for this and get this hard pull. There's a couple reasons why that's bad. One, you can just get another credit card with that hard pull and have higher access to credit. If it's within the same issuer, usually you can transfer credit lines around. So like automatically, you could just got a new credit card with new benefits and a new sign-up bonus for the same inquiry. In a business card, for example, like a business card won't even show up on your report, and you can get the same benefit with the same inquiry versus, running a hard inquiry just for a credit line increase. Another thing, this is one thing that's like a huge mistake. Let's say you apply for some credit card, okay? And they give you a really bad limit. They approve you and it's like $1,000 limit. You're like, well, what can I buy with this? I can go to Toys R Us and that's all I can get with it, right? And they're like, oh, I'm going to go get a credit line increase now. I'm going to apply. It's been 3 days since I've had the card. I think they'll give me a credit line. No, they won't. They just gave you the card. You can't get a credit line increase 3 damn days later. Like, you have to give it some time. They gave you that toy limit for a reason. They don't trust you. And if you go apply for a credit line increase, that even looks riskier. So there's, if you're going to do it, you got to wait a little bit. And even if there's no hard pull, like, you still have to wait a little bit for applying for credit line increase. And the final point I'll say on this, and I'm everyone talks about high credit limits. I want a high credit limit. I want, I've got $10,000 in this card. Ooh, right. I advise a lot of times to lower your credit lines. Why? Now, this is a high level play. This isn't for like the average person. The reason is the higher credit line you have with any given issuer, the higher risk profile you have. The Chase customer with $200,000 of credit is much riskier than the one with $20,000 of credit. If the $200,000 credit guy decides to go AWOL and max out his cards, Chase is out a lot more than a guy with $20,000. So it means when you're going for your next credit card with Chase, they're going to think you're a less risky customer. They're willing to extend more credit to you. You're at lower risk of shutdown because you have a lower risk profile. You have a lower risk of financial review because you have a lower risk profile. So I'm one of the few people that actually does actively lower my limits across all these banks because I don't need these high limits. I don't need $10,000 in a card. As long as the card has a high enough limit to reach your daily spend and what you're actually going to buy, you don't need a higher credit line than that. And people are like, oh, but my utilization is going to be high. No, it won't be if you just pay off your card in advance. If you pay off your card before the statement closes, it's not going to report anyways to the credit issuers. It's just going to, or the credit agencies. It's still going to show a 0% utilization. So you can just pay off your card in advance. Your utilization will be the same. You'll have a lower risk profile with the bank and it'll all be good. So that is, again, it's very situational. It depends on your circumstances. It's a high level play for someone that wants to get a bunch of credit cards, but it is something to keep in mind. So what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, I think you explained it really well. So I don't really have anything to add to that. So with that, thank you so much for listening. I think we'll wrap it up today. If you enjoyed today's episode, please give us a like and subscribe to our channel. We are rapidly growing, so anything to help with the algorithm is greatly appreciated. It's free. It doesn't cost anything. Also, if any of the cards we talked about or any card in particular interests you, please check out the referral links in the description. Using them really helps us out and helps us make more quality content. Finally, we have a Discord group that Sean will plug.
Yeah, so if you want to connect with an elite group of award travelers, people that are really, really experts in this area and get amazing deal alerts, all for free, no memberships required, nothing like that, literally for free, check out the link in the description for the Traveling Discord group. You will learn so much, I promise you. And also, if you have any suggestions for future videos, please comment them down below because we would love for some ideas of what our audience wants to see. So with that, we hope you enjoyed and we will see you next week.